Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar, where we'll be talking about Desk Connect and how to synchronize your data between Desk and Salesforce. So let's go ahead and start the presentation here. So my name is Brian Suh. I'm the onboarding and training specialist here at Desk. And I have here with me Kevin Purdell. He's one of our customer wow specialists. Kevin's on the line. Do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself, Kevin?
Yeah, thanks. So my name's Kevin Purdell. I'm on the support team here, and I work a lot with, Desk Connect, onboarding, and getting people up and running with, syncing and any troubles that they can run into.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. Let's go and move to the next slide here. So our training will last just about half an hour. We want to devote some of that time to talking about kind of what is Desk Connect, what are the things you have to consider pre and post enablement, and then Kevin will actually walk you guys through a demo of the actual setup on both the Desk side and the Salesforce side. Following that, we want to devote a good amount of time to Q&A. Since we do have a small group here today, I really want to encourage you guys to ask your questions. Whether it's during the actual training, you can actually just type those into the GoToWebinar questions panel, and then we'll save those questions towards the end as well. So we'll get all of them answered. The session is also being recorded as well, so if you can't stay with us for the entire time, we'll send out a link to you guys, and which actually links to our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, where you can watch other GoToWebinars that we've had in the past. Or I'll also direct you guys to our video support center, where we have a lot of great content. In addition to our Desk Connect webinars, we have a lot of great video content on how to set up Desk. All right. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide here. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and first begin by talking about what Desk Connect is. Desk Connect is the full bidirectional sync between Desk and Salesforce. Next slide here. Now, by default, out of the box, Desk Connect is going to sync with three main CRM objects between Desk and Salesforce, meaning the case, the contact, and the account. Now, we had an old integration with Salesforce that used to use a custom case object inside Salesforce. And now with Desk Connect, we now use a standard case object in Salesforce completely out of the box. So you can take care of all of those canned reports that are already set up for you in Salesforce. Now, we don't only sync the case, contact, and account objects, but we also sync interactions on a case as well. So, for example, if you're reaching out to your customers and your customers are reaching out to you, those interactions are being captured in Desk, and we push those interactions to the case in Salesforce. So anyone looking at these cases in Salesforce is going to be able to see the complete customer history and all the interactions you've had with the customer. Let's move to the next slide here. So why connect sales and service? Now that's great, but why is it important, and why do we want to connect sales and service? So next slide here. Now, well, there's a couple of main points, and it's about achieving that 360-degree view of a customer. It's about having a complete view from the customer history to all the interactions the customer's had, even information about a sales opportunity that you've had. So from a sales perspective, we know that your sales team is going to be more effective if they have access to customer service cases. And that's one of the main features of Desk Connect, being able to connect your sales team that's living in Salesforce and the customer service team that's living in Desk. So for example, if your customer service team is creating cases in Desk and syncing cases in Salesforce, and now when your sales team is looking at an opportunity and they're looking at the contact, they're able to see all the customer service history from the contact. So they'll be able to go into a sales deal and say, hey, I know you've had 7 open cases with us. We've solved 4 and 3 are in development. And ultimately, this is going to make your customers happier. It's going to make your customers trust you more as a brand, and it's going to make your sales team more effective. And on the flip side, we know that your service team is going to have a better experience with customers if they have some sales data come in. The salesperson can write a note or an internal case comment in Salesforce saying, hey, I talked to the customer and they're pretty unhappy about this one thing. So just so you know before you reach out to the customer. And again, so ultimately it's about having that 360 degree view of the customer. So let's move to the next slide here. So let's talk about a few prerequisites that are needed, to enable this amazing feature. Next slide. So the first thing that's needed is that you need to be a Salesforce customer and have a Salesforce Professional Edition or above. In Salesforce, we want to make sure that the case priority pick list values have been added, which are high, medium, and low. The other field in Salesforce that we're going to check is the case status. As a Salesforce system administrator, we need to go into setup and make sure that the case priority and the case status have the correct values. For case status, it's going to be new, open, pending, resolved, and closed. Then on the desk side, we want to make sure that you're a desk professional plan or above, in addition to being on a Salesforce professional plan above. Next is object mapping. Remember that the three standard objects that we map are case, contact, and account. In Desk, we call Salesforce contacts customers. So any customer records that are created in the Desk application using Desk Connect will get synced over as your Salesforce contacts. In Desk, we call Salesforce accounts companies. So when you create a company in Desk, those will get synced over to Salesforce as accounts. For contacts, we usually use the email address as the unique identifier and also the phone number to match the contact record in Salesforce. Now, for the account, we use the account name to match the record. Next, let's talk about desk cases to Salesforce cases. We're able to create these and have them under the correct account and contact in Salesforce. Lastly here, we want to make sure in Salesforce that your standard case object is visible within your contact and account layouts. So if you're using an install package integration, which we do offer, you'll notice that these cases are going to a custom object called Desk.com cases. Using Desk Connect, what we do is sync to the native case object that comes with Salesforce. So you as an administrator can run better reporting in Salesforce and create dashboards. All right, next slide here. So let's talk about things to consider post enablement now. When we enable Desk Connect, only new cases, customers, and account records that are created or edited in either system will sync. So if you have any historical data, then all you have to do is, as an agent or administrator, initiate a bulk update. You don't necessarily have to change the status or other fields, but once you open the case and edit, the system will be able to sync the case over to Salesforce. Now, one more thing to note about the standard case object is the case is getting synced over the native case object. So within the related list in Salesforce, you want to make sure that this case object is visible. If not, then you'd need to contact the Salesforce administrator and edit the layout. Now for syncing time, whenever you make edits from Desk.com or create a case or customer, these updates will instantly get synced over to Salesforce. When making changes on the Salesforce side, it takes up to 5 minutes to appear within Desk. Next here, field mapping. What's great about Desk Connect is that we not only give the ability to bidirectionally sync information, but on top of that, you can also map fields. So if you have custom fields created in Salesforce, you have the ability to map those over to Desk. So your Desk agents have the ability to see that information. Here are the standard field mappings per object. So when we enable Desk Connect for cases, you'll be able to map the status, priority, subject, and description without any additional setup. For contacts, it'll be the name, title, phone, and email. And for account, it's the account name. And these are the standard fields that'll get synced, that'll automatically get mapped once we enable Desk Connect. If you want to map your custom fields, here are the 4 data types that we have the ability to sync with. And that's text, pick list, checkbox, and date. Our next point here is that case numbers are not synced by default. Desk case numbers are different from Salesforce case numbers. So in order for your Salesforce representative to be able to log in and quickly see which desk case is associated with the corresponding Salesforce case, we can achieve this with a custom field mapping. And if you'd like more information on creating that workflow, then you can also always reach out to our support team. Our last point here is that the Desk Connect integration does not count against the Salesforce API limit. So for those of you administrators that are conscious about your API limits that comes with your plan, luckily with Desk Connect, you don't have to worry about that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to a demo. And I'll go ahead and hand it off to Kevin, and he'll walk you through the setup on both the Desk and Salesforce side. All yours, Kevin.
Thanks, Brian. All right, so let me switch over to Desk and Salesforce here. So the first thing you're going to want to do to set up Desk Connect is reach out to either your account executive or to support and have Desk Connect enabled for your account. By default, we don't turn it on, just so that we know who's turning on Desk Connect and make sure that they're going to be set up for success when they're setting up the integration. Desk Connect is a very powerful tool, and we just want to make sure that you guys have everything configured right before. So if you don't see Desk Connect in your account, then just reach out to us and we can get it enabled for you. Okay, so if we look in the admin here in Desk, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Settings here at the top right, and then you should see Desk Connect here along the left side. And so if you don't see that, once again, reach out to us and we'll get that enabled for your account. So when you click on Desk Connect, I have it on currently, but when you first set it up, it'll be set to off. And all you want to do is switch it to on. And that will prompt you to connect to your Salesforce account. So I've already logged in to Salesforce here. And so what you're going to do is log in as the user you want to make the connection with. Desk Connect uses a specific user to make connection between Desk and Salesforce. And so you want to use a user that has access to all of the objects and fields that you want to sync with. Usually that will be a system admin profile user, and that's generally what we'd recommend using. You can use custom profiles, but most people just use the system admin. So I logged in here. So if I go back to Desk, and what I would do is turn this on, and it would ask me to connect to Salesforce, and then you would see it pop up with this screen. And that means that the connection is set up. And so that's really it as far as making the initial connection. Once you start, editing cases and customers, they would just start syncing over right away. So you want to make sure that you have a plan for, setting up Desk Connect when you turn it on. Otherwise, you can get, customers syncing over, accounts syncing over when you're maybe not ready. So the next thing after turning on Desk Connect is you want to make sure that you have the right standard fields in Salesforce. And so the main ones are on the case object. So if we go to Setup here and we do a little search for cases, and we're going to select fields, and this will give us a list of standard and custom fields. We're looking at the standard, priority, and status fields. So if you click on priority here, it will tell you which priority list values are present. And we're just going to make sure that we have high, medium, and low. Now you may have other values here, and that's fine, but you want high, medium, and low just by default. So Desk has priority values of 1 through 10, and those are going to map into buckets of high, medium, and low. All right, so if we go back and we look at status, we're going to check and make sure that the Desk status values have a mappable field here. So in Desk, we have new, we have open, we have pending, we have resolved. We also have closed. So you want to make sure that these values are present on the Salesforce side. That way, when you sync a case over from Desk, your Salesforce agents know what the status is from Desk. So just make sure you have new, open, pending, and resolved. All right, so now that I have that set up, I can try syncing a test case. And so let's go here, and we're going to go into the next-gen agent. And I'm just going to create a new case here. So I have customer that I want to make a case for, Larry Baxter. And I'm just going to create a case for him. And so now we can, fill out a subject, webinar test case, and we can update that. And that should sync over pretty much immediately. So if we go into Salesforce here, we already see that the case has synced over. And so if we look at that, depending on the layout of your case object, we'll see the details about the contact and that account, the status, priority, things like that, and the case origin. Now, if I wanted to make a change to the subject of the case on the desk side, I can just update that. And then when I head over back to Salesforce and I reload, hasn't synced over yet. Should be pretty much immediate. Sometimes it's a couple seconds. So now you see that the subject change has synced over. All right, and so that's one of the standard fields that syncs. The other ones are status, priority, and so you can also make changes to customer fields right out of the box. So let's say that Larry has gotten a promotion. He's now the VP of Business Development. So we just make that update here. And then if we go back and we look at Larry's contact, you'll now see that the VP of Business Development, the title field, has synced over. So that's pretty good example of the basic functionality of the integration. It just allows you to sync over information about cases and contacts and in real time, which is really nice. Now the main questions that people ask us right out of the box is, how do I sync the case number? And so Desk has its own set of case numbers that you can't edit or change or control really, and Salesforce does the same. So what we want to do is we're going to set up a custom field in Salesforce to house that information. So we would go to Setup, and then we would go to Cases again, and select the fields. And so what we would do is we would come in here and we would add a custom field. I already have one here, so I'm just going to show you that one. And you can call it whatever you'd like. I just call it desk case number. And it's a text type field with the length value of 255. And so this is going to house our case number. And so now what we're going to do, once that's created, we're just going to go to a case and make sure that it is shown in the layout. So it's there. And I've already set up the syncing value, so it's already populated, but I'll show you how to do that. So now if we go back into Desk, we're going to set up a corresponding custom field in order to house the case number. So I have created a desk case number text field, and you can call it whatever you like, and it's just going to be a basic text field. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a rule to pass the case number into the custom field on the desk side. So if we go here to rules, under cases and then rules, and then case updated, sorry, case created, I made a rule here called set desk case number. So what this rule looks like is it has no conditions, meaning it's just going to run every time the case is created. And we're going to tell it to set desk case number, and that's just the name of the field. And then we're going to use a liquid variable to pass in the case ID. So the liquid variable is case.id with the brackets around it. And so now every time a case is created, it's going to pass that case number into the custom field. So let's make a new case here. We'll just make another test case for Larry. And you can see as soon as I create it, the case number has populated. So this is case 1768, and let's just make this easy to find. All right, now if we go over into Salesforce, we look at our cases, we select that case, and you'll see the case number here has populated. Oh, I forgot one thing. We need to sync the fields. Sorry about that. So once you have the custom field in Desk and the custom field in Salesforce, you want to map them so that the system knows to sync the two fields. So if you go back into Settings, Desk Connect, we're going to go to Field Mappings here. And give it a second to load here. So essentially, this is just a big list of all the Salesforce fields for the company, customer, and case. If we select case, we'll find our Salesforce field on the left, and then in the middle is our Desks field. And you would just select that custom field here for Desk, and then you hit Save. And that just tells the system that these two fields are linked, and that you should sync the values between them. And then, once you create a case, then the rule will populate the case number into the custom field in Desk. That'll get synced to Salesforce, and then your, agents will see the case number in Salesforce. So you can also do this in reverse. So if you want to pass the Salesforce case number back to Desk, it's the same principle. You would just, create a field in Salesforce, populate the case number into it, and then sync that to a custom field in Desk. Now, the second common question we get is, how do I pass the agent's name over? So you would just do the same sort of workflow. You would go into Desk and create a custom field here for the Desk agent. And it's a text field. And then you would do the same thing. You would create a rule and populate the agent into it, map it to a Salesforce field, and then it would sync over. All right, so that's kind of the two most common questions we get about the Desk Connect integration. So the other main setting that Desk Connect has is the ability to control the syncing. So we call that selective sync. So by default, Desk Connect will just sync everything. It'll sync, any case or customer or company that comes into Desk will sync to Salesforce, and any, account, contact, or case that gets created or updated in Salesforce will sync back to Desk. So we have the ability to control that. So say you don't want your accounts syncing back to Desk, and you can just turn that off. And so that gives you broad control over the syncing feature. And we have these for customer and for case. Another feature we have is the ability to add conditions to the sync. So say I want a bit more manual control over the case syncing, then I would come in here and I would go to the case tab, and from Desk to Salesforce, I can add an all condition here. And essentially, these work just like rule conditions do in business rules. So you would select a field here, and note that it has to be a list type field or a true/false field. So I have a list field called sync to Salesforce, and the values are yes and no. So I would say if sync to Salesforce is yes, then sync the case. So I just save that. And then if we look at our case custom fields here, I have the default value set to no. So any cases that are created would be set to no initially and would not sync. And then if you want to sync the case, you would just set that field to yes, and it would sync over. So let me show you that really quick. Let's create a new test case for Larry again here. And we'll call it selective sync. And you can see the sync to Salesforce is set to now. And so what we'd want to do is go look in Salesforce, and we wouldn't see the case synced over. So you can see it hasn't been passed over yet. Then as soon as we set sync to Salesforce to yes, then we would expect the case to sync over. So there we go. So now it's synced over, and it's fully synced. All right, so those are kind of the basic features of Desk Connect and how to set it up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them, and we'll have a Q&A section now and go over them.
All right, thanks, Kevin. All right, so it looks like we have a few questions already. Again, as Kevin mentioned, if you do have questions, type them into the GoToWebinar questions panel, and we'll get these all answered. So it looks like the first one we have, it's almost a mini workflow question here. Let me read this out. So in our company workflow, not just the customers are able to open cases reporting problems. We also have specialists that do it frequently. They have access to Salesforce and should create their cases in their assigning which company they are reporting the issue about. However, every time they create the case in Salesforce and assign the company, they are referencing when they see the same case in Desk.com, the company field has the domain of the reporter instead of what's set in Salesforce.
Yeah, I can cover that. So Desk by default will, when someone emails you for the first time, so say someone emails you out of the blue, Desk has a standard company creation workflow, and essentially what it does is it looks at the customer's email address and it creates a company using the domain name. So say, Kevin at Salesforce.com emails this account, then a Salesforce.com company would be created. Now, a lot of times customers would have a Salesforce contact or account in Salesforce already, and so that Salesforce.com doesn't really match up well with that. So what you can do is you can turn the auto create companies off. So what I did here is we go to cases, companies, and then there's advanced settings. And this kind of controls how the companies are created. So if you just turn that off, then it will prevent it from creating companies based on the domain, and you can just fill them out as they come in. And that way you won't have those .com companies synced over as accounts. Additionally, if a customer is already a contact in Salesforce, it'll look up that contact and automatically use their account. So by default, it should pick the right company based on the account, but oftentimes, this auto create companies is what controls the company creation.
Okay. Looks like we have another question here. It's from one of the administrators of Desk.com. Looks like they've been receiving an automated email from Desk.com in regards to a list of recipients. How can they stop receiving this automated email?
It's probably the system log. Probably have to look at the email directly, but so in Desk, we have a system log email that tracks errors. So you can see I have some errors in my system log here. And this, if you go to the advanced settings, you can set up who gets the notifications for these errors. So my guess is that it's that email that you're getting, and you can just go in here and modify the recipients of that. But to know for sure, I'd probably have to look at the email. You can just email support, we can help you out.
Okay, great. Next question, can we send new customers from Desk to leads in Salesforce?
So the short answer is no. Desk Connect doesn't have the ability to sync with the lead object. And I guess the reason for that is that if someone's a customer and is interacting with you in Desk, then we assume that they're already going to be a customer or contact. Um, with the old integration, you can sync to leads. So if that's a necessary part of your business and workflow, then you might consider using the old integration instead of Desk Connect.
Okay, great. Next question here. Can you limit what you sync? For example, by account type? I'm concerned about pooling all Salesforce records into Desk unnecessarily.
Yes. So I don't have it set up here in my Salesforce instance, but what you can do is create a record type. So say for, I guess, do record type. So with accounts and contacts, you can have record types, which essentially just allow you to make different groups of accounts and contacts. So say you have, two businesses, separate businesses within your Salesforce organization, or two separate products, and maybe Desk is only relevant for one of those. So you can create a record type, and I won't actually do it here, but you can create a record type and assign different accounts or contacts to that record type. And then when you go to set up the selective sync, you would see a little drop-down menu that says default record type. And that way it'll only have access to those specific records. Another thing you have to do is you can create a profile that only has access to one of the record types, and that's another way to segment out accounts and contacts. So the integration really only has the same access as the user that would use to link the integration in the first place. And so what you would want to do is create a custom user with a profile that has access to only specific record types, and then link the integration with that user. So then Desk Connect would only have those same permissions.
All right. Another question here. Can you use the data loader to do a bulk update to Salesforce to cause all records to sync?
Yes. So we recommend that you use the data loader to do a bulk update to accounts and contacts. And that's the easiest way to do bulk updates in Salesforce. I would probably reach out to Salesforce support to have them walk you through that, but essentially if you do a bulk update of, say, your contacts, it'll sync all of those to Desk. And so that way you'll have all of those customers found in Desk as this updates of those contacts will create customers on the Desk side. So often customers have lots of accounts and contacts already, and they would definitely want to do a bulk update of them just to sync those over to Desk when they get going with Desk Connect.
All right, another question here. We only want one directional sync from Desk to Salesforce. Can we configure that?
Yep. So you would just go into Settings and then Desk Connect, and you can just turn off Salesforce to Desk across the board and save, and then you would only get syncing from Desk to Salesforce in that direction. And that way, cases created in Salesforce wouldn't get synced to Desk, but if you create a case in Desk, it would go to Salesforce. And that's similar to how the old integration worked. The old integration would push stuff to Desk, or to Salesforce, and allow them to see it, but not really edit it in any way.
All right, another one here. Would only enabling case bidirectional sync, not company or customer, into Salesforce prevent cases from Salesforce generating in Desk?
Can you repeat that one?
Yeah. Would only enabling case bidirectional sync, not company or customer, into Salesforce prevent cases from Salesforce generating in Desk?
No. So if you have the case object set to sync both ways, even if customer and company are off, then cases in both Desk and Salesforce will sync back and forth. So if you wanted to prevent cases from syncing from Salesforce to Desk, you would have to turn this off. If you want, so that would prevent updates from Salesforce to existing Desk cases. So what you'd want to do is set up like a condition like this, but with Salesforce cases. You want to turn it on, and then create a condition, and then you would want to have those cases you want to sync be set to sync, and then the rest not. That makes sense.
All right. Another question here. Can we have security on who can create a lead or contact for Salesforce?
Right now, we don't have any user level permissions around the syncing features. So, if any agent creates a customer and customer syncing is enabled, then it will just sync over. There are things you can do with roles and permissions that will allow you to prevent Desk agents from creating customers in the first place, but it's not necessarily Desk Connect specific.
All right. Another one here. You talked about the old integration. What do you mean by old integration? And they said, I do see an option in my desk. How can I use this if I wanted?
Yeah, so if you look at this integrations tab and go to Salesforce integration, so this is a relic from the old integration. So essentially from until the past year or so, we had an older integration that it works off of a managed package that you would install in Salesforce. And essentially that would create a custom object called Desk.com cases. And then, so what you would do is you would install the package and set up the connection. And then there are a couple of rules here that would sync cases. So if you see create case in Salesforce here under inbound rules and update case in Salesforce, these are part of the old integration. And so what those do is when these rules fired, it would send the case updates over to Salesforce under the Desk.com cases object. I don't think I actually have it here in this org. But essentially it was more of a one-way sync. You would push cases from Desk to Salesforce, and you would see them there, and you could look at the case history and notes and things like that, but you couldn't really reply back. And you could create Desk cases from Salesforce, but you couldn't interact with them once they were created. So the old integration, it was definitely more limited, definitely safer. You couldn't create accounts you couldn't create accounts from Desk to Salesforce, and the contact and lead creation process was manual, so you had to click a little button. But besides that, the integrations were pretty similar. I would reach out to us if you have, if you want a full breakdown of what the two integrations are like, and we can help you weigh those options.
All right, looks like we're getting into our last 5 minutes here, and we do have one more question. We do have time for a little bit more. So if you do have questions, type those into the GoToWebinar questions panel. But let's answer the last one here. So for now, how can you prevent duplicate accounts, contacts from being created in Salesforce through the sync?
Well, so when an email or case comes in, it will look up the customer based on a couple identifying fields. So those are the email, phone number, Twitter name, things like that. And it'll do a lookup, and if it finds an existing contact, it'll just link it to that contact automatically. So that will, in general, prevent most duplications. Now, if you just create a customer with just a name, then it's likely that it won't find anything to sync it up to. It'll create a new contact. So you just want to make sure that when you're creating contacts on the desk side that you have an email address or phone number as a way to identify them in the sync. As far as accounts go, the name is the identifying field, and That's because Desk only allows unique company names. And so the main way to prevent the duplication is to just make sure that the company name matches up to the account name in Salesforce. And so if you did a bulk update and synced all of your accounts back to Desk, then you would already have all those accounts listed in Desk, and that would generally prevent duplications. And then, as I mentioned before, you might want to turn off the company creation process, and that will prevent it creating accounts with the .com at the end.
All right, looks like we do have a couple more here. How do you delete the address and Twitter field in Desk so the Salesforce widget is pushed up?
Oh. So you want to move it up here. We don't have a way to edit the customer details layout section yet, but it is in the works. So hopefully soon we'll have the ability to move around some of these fields. But for now we're just stuck with where it is, unfortunately.
All right, looks like that was the last question. Oh, one more here. Let's see here. Oh, let's see. And from that, I think it was, we also do not want to see the Twitter field. I think that was more of a comment. Okay.
Yeah, so you can remove those in the classic agent, but in the next gen, we're just waiting for the ability to set the layout. So similar to how we have the case layout customizations, we'll have a customer layout customization, and then you would be able to remove those fields. But for now, we don't have the ability to remove these.
All right, so we're at the top of our 45 minutes here. I do appreciate all of your questions. I hope this was beneficial for you guys. And please, if you guys do have further questions, as Kevin mentioned, support is always here for you guys. So email your questions in, call in, and we'll definitely get you guys helped out. Again, I will email the recording out to you guys. Please check out our support site and our video support center for a lot of great resources and information. All right, thank you everyone, and have a great day.